you think you were attacked by a demon. And I have to tell you, like, a lot of people mock this, they roll their eyes, but I look at, like, what happened to Charlie, what happened in the wake of Charlie, what happened at the Ascension School in Minneapolis, where that man went in there and shot a bunch of little children praying at their church school. And I challenge anyone to tell me there aren't demons among us.
I never thought there were. I thought the whole thing was like bizarre.
So what happened?
Because like culturally, I'm just not from a world where people are attacked by demons. And in fact, when it happened the next morning, when I saw the blood on my sheets, I was like, I actually called someone who works for me who's a very sincere, lifelong evangelical, and I'm like, have you ever heard of this? And she's like, oh yeah, it happens all the time. And I was like, what? Not to Episcopalians, it doesn't.
Stuff it down.
Yeah, no, it was wild. Yeah, I mean, I'm not embarrassed at all, and I don't care if I'm mocked. Don't get anything out of making this up, and I'm not making it up.
But what happened?
I had this crazy experience where I was in the truck with someone coming back from quail hunting, and I had all of a sudden we were talking about someone I despise, and all of a sudden I had this crazy empathy for the person, like really intense empathy, like I could understand why this person was doing these horrible things. And I said to the person in the truck, this is a family dispute, right? So said to the person, maybe my brother, and I said, I think I know what's happening here. This person feels this way, that way, this way. And my brother goes, how did you know that? I said, I don't know. It just like, and my brother goes, I think like God is like speaking through you or something. And I felt total, true empathy for this person I truly hate. It was like the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. I have no idea where it came from. My brother's like, I think that's from God. Like, there's no way you can. I was like, wow, that's kind of wild. So then I get home. We have this huge dinner party, which we always have dinner parties. And I forget about it. And I'm telling you this because they're twinned. The one leads to the other. I had this profound experience with God, like profound and beautiful and unexpected. And then I go to bed with my wife and 4 dogs who sleep in the bed. My wife said 4 children. My dogs are hunting dogs. All 5 of them wake up like that. Like we have no home invaders in my house. I wake up at 2:30 in the morning. I check and I couldn't breathe at all. My throat was closed. It wasn't like I was apnea or was strong as I couldn't breathe. So I get up, I stand in the doorway of our bedroom, and I'm like, wow, I'm dying. I could feel myself starting to gray out. And then I started walking in the backyard, and then it slowly came back. Like my throat kind of opened up a little bit. I was like really weirded out. I walk back in, and my wife wakes up. She goes, what is going on? I said, I don't know. I can't breathe. I feel better now. And all of a sudden, I had this horrible pain underneath my arms, like on the side of my chest. Like bad. I thought I'd been like ripped with a knife or something. It just was very intense. So I go into the bathroom, I flip on the light, and I have claw marks on both sides, on right and left side on my ribs, and they're bleeding. And they're literally claw marks, 4 on either side. I put my fingers in them, don't fit my fingers, and I sleep on my side. So and by the way, no one woke up. So I show my wife, and she's like, oh my gosh. And then I have this like crazy intense desire to read the Bible. So I read the Bible and I pass out in like 2 minutes, and I wake up the next morning. I thought, man, did I have a wild dream? And then I see blood in my sheets, and I go in the bathroom and I have these bloody marks. And my wife goes, I think you were attacked by some supernatural being. And I was like trying to be logical about it. And I was like, yeah, I definitely was. And then I called one of my producers who's like, oh yeah, well, that's pretty common. I was like, what? And I've had a couple other experiences, not that crazy, but where you really feel God's presence, which is marked by peace and true empathy, love for other people, which doesn't come naturally to me. I'm kind of a dick, obviously. But you know it when God is acting through you, and then they're followed by some wild attack. Like, why? I've had a couple things. It's just like, well, anyway. I'm not an expert on this. I'm hardly a theologian. Of course, I would never pretend to be an expert in anything. I can only say what happened to me. It was 100% real, and it completely changed my view of the world.
What did you learn from your conversation with Lee Strobel, who wrote a book on the supernatural and who also wrote The Case for Christ? Many of you guys recommended that book to me, and it really was amazing. And Lee Strobel came on your show in September.
Yes.
On his new book, which is about the supernatural.
Yes.
It's about miracles. Amazing. It's about angels. It's about demons. It's a great read. But was there something in there that spoke to you?
Everything about it. I mean, I grew up in a church I'll just admit it with shame, the Episcopal Church, where all the supernatural stuff was taken out. And at a certain stage in my life, I was like, why am I going to church? I love hanging in bed with my wife and dogs on Sunday morning. Like, why am I, and we wear ties to church. Like, why am I doing this? There's nothing in here that's like, be nice to your neighbor. Okay. Like, if it's not supernatural, then what's the point? And when I read the Bible, it's like, it is about the supernatural.
Yeah,
like, that's the whole story.
It's true.
It's like God intervenes supernaturally, bigger than, above nature. And that's why it's different from every other book. And the New Testament especially is filled with Jesus casting out demons. I literally didn't know that. I knew there was the crazy guy in the cemetery who broke his chains, but I didn't really realize that not only was Jesus, but also the disciples were casting out demons that were possessing people and causing them to hurt themselves. And as someone who had a drug and alcohol problem, like I know kind of that weird, I've seen it a lot in others also, that weird desire to harm yourself.
By the way, there's a reason they call it his demons. He's fighting his demons.
It is totally real. Because ultimately, evil, we always think of evil as like something that like diabolical people do to gain, like I'm screwing you, I'm killing you so I can take your gold. But what we never acknowledge is true, which is evil flows through people and destroys the people. Not just the victims, but also the person through whom it flows. People who are possessed by evil are themselves destroyed every single time. And of course, I've lived a life, so I've seen a lot of that, and now in retrospect, I understand what it was. And so much of what we experience is from outside of ourselves. We are acted upon constantly by the spiritual realm. And Lee Strobel just affirmed what I was beginning to realize, which is we are the subject of massive supernatural influence all the time. And every other civilization from the beginning of time has acknowledged this and written about it and left artifacts that point to that belief. And only in the last 80 years have we just foreclosed that possibility, and we've embraced this, the dumbest religion ever created, scientism, which is like, oh, I can't measure that. It's not real. Oh, shut up.
Yeah.
Right? That's like insane, actually, when you say it out loud. But that is our state religion. It's mandated, by the way. If you don't believe it, you can't serve in high office. You're mocked. You're literally disqualified from professions if you don't embrace scientism, which is like the fakest thing ever invented. Like I would always, like as a kid, study these weird religions. I'm like, that's insane. Nothing is as insane as scientism. And so once you discard it, and you're like, yeah, it's nice to measure things in a lab. Is that the sum total of truth? Obviously not. What is true? Then you realize, like, holy smokes, the spiritual battle is totally real, and we are the subjects of it.
And that will lead us to UFOs. All right. Now, I know you're into this topic, and I know you know people who know a lot about this topic and who may not be able to provide everything they know in a public setting. So what do we know?
Well, I mean, we know beyond question that there are objects and phenomena, aerial and undersea, that can't be explained by science and that seem to defy the laws, will measurably defy the laws of physics, and that are not experimental aircraft created by DARPA or the DoD or by the Russians or the Chinese. Like, we know that. There have been many testimonies to this effect under oath in the Congress in the last 2 years. So, like, that's not even a question. Are they real? Yeah, well, obviously they're real. What are they is the question. And I've been down the rabbit hole on this, and just because of my job, the one upside to having a gig like this, as you well know, is if you're curious about something, you actually have access to people who know or say they know, and you just call them up and be like, hey, come to my house, tell me what you know. I'm working on a story about it. I've never done really a story on this because I came to a hard and fast conclusion on it, which I can't prove, but I sincerely believe it, which is that these are spiritual phenomena, obviously. They've been here forever. There's a lot of evidence of that in the written record going back thousands of years. They're angels and demons, of course. And that would be obvious and was obvious to everyone else. What's so interesting, one of the reasons that this topic will drive you crazy and why I opted out and do no research and talk to no one about it, I'm out, I know what I think, I don't want to know anymore, is because there is such, and this is a matter of record, a concerted, decades-long disinformation campaign by the U.S. government to obscure what's happening. And if you look at that, and I grew up the son of a federal employee in a world where there was a lot of this stuff, so I do know a lot about this. And one of the ways to discredit the truth is by flooding the zone with lies. So rather than just denying UFOs are not real, well, you can't deny that anymore. They are real. What you do is you create a bunch of fake stories leading people in the wrong direction. You flood the zone. There's so many conspiracy theories that no one believes anything. But the way to know what the truth is by figuring out what they're trying to prevent you from believing. And if you look at the U.S. government propaganda, DOD propaganda, on the question of UFOs, UAPs, the one thread that connects all of it is that these are not supernatural. These are little green men from Mars. They're weather phenomenon. They're experimental aircraft. The one thing that they don't want you to believe is that they are spiritual entities.
Why would that be so threatening to them?
Well, that's a great question. That is the question.